Nobody becomes a parent planning to get it wrong. Every person who has ever held their child for the first time has felt the same thing, a fierce, wordless commitment to do right by the child, to be present, to be patient, to be the kind of parent they needed and may or may not have had. And then life happens. The mornings pile up. The demands of work and exhaustion and 100 daily obligations crowd the space between intention and action. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, the years pass faster than anyone warned you they would. And what is left, when the noise settles, is the quiet reckoning that comes to almost every parent eventually. What do I wish I had done differently? This video is the answer to that question, drawn not from guilt or regret as a destination, but from research, from the wisdom of parents who have looked back honestly, and from developmental science that tells us which of the choices we make in ordinary days carry the most weight in the lives we are building. Not to make you feel bad about the past, to help you see the present more clearly while there is still time to use what you see. Here are 11 things parents regret most and what the research says about why they matter more than they seemed at the time. 1. Being too quick to correct. Most parents who look back wish they had created more room for their children to exist without constant evaluation. Not that they were cruel, not even that they were particularly harsh. Simply that correction became the default mode of engagement, the reflexive response to imperfection, and that it accumulated quietly into something heavier than they intended. A broken cup became a lesson. A bad grade became a conversation about effort. A clumsy social moment became an opportunity to teach. All of it reasonable in isolation. All of it, taken together, producing something the research has a name for. A child who learned to experience the parent's attention as primarily evaluative. The research on this is clear. Parental criticism, particularly when it is frequent and targets the child rather than the behavior, is consistently associated with increased anxiety, reduced intrinsic motivation, and what developmental psychologists call contingent self-worth, a sense of value that depends entirely on performance and approval. A child who grows up under a steady drizzle of correction does not become more careful. They become more afraid. This does not mean there should be no correction. It means the ratio matters enormously. Research on positive parent-child communication consistently finds that warmth and affirmation need to significantly outweigh criticism for the child to experience the relationship as safe enough to take risks, make mistakes, and return to the parent when things go wrong. The regret is not that they corrected their children, it is that the corrections took up more space than the celebrating, and that the child felt it. 2, missing the moments that matter to them, not to you. Here is one of the most consistent findings across research on parenting regret. The moments parents most wish they had shown up for are not the ones that seemed important from the outside. They are the ones that were important to their child. The school play, the weekend sports match, the art project they wanted to show you at exactly the right moment, the conversation they started at 9 p.m. when you were exhausted and distracted and half listening. A study from the American Psychological Association found that people who have fond memories of childhood, specifically of their relationships with their parents, tend to have better health outcomes, less depression, and fewer chronic illnesses as older adults. And what distinguished those memories was not material provision or grand gestures. It was presence. The feeling of having been a priority. Research on childhood memory also reveals something important. Children are not storing highlight reels. They are storing the emotional texture of ordinary time. Whether a parent was there and what it felt like when they were. The study also found that a common theme across recalled childhood memories was a critical relationship most often between parent and child at the center of whatever was being remembered. The moment you showed up to the school play matters not because of the play. It matters because your child looked out from the stage and found your face. And that face told them everything they needed to know about their own importance. 3, underestimating the power of play. Parents who look back almost universally wish they had played more. Not organized activities, not educational enrichment. Play. The kind that is purposeless and messy and fully present. Research consistently shows that creative play, drawing, building, imaginative scenarios, physical exploration has a direct and measurable effect on the development of language, executive function, social cognition, and emotional regulation in children. And it has another effect that the research is less often cited for. It tells the child something about how their parent sees them. A parent who plays is a parent who finds their child interesting, who is willing to enter the child's world rather than waiting for the child to graduate into the adult one. That message, I find you interesting, I want to be where you are, lands in a child's developing sense of self in ways that structured activities cannot replicate. The regret is not about the missed opportunities for cognitive enrichment. It is about the afternoons that could have been spent on the floor with blocks and were spent on a screen instead. And the child who noticed the difference for not capturing the moments that disappeared. This one is simpler and perhaps lighter than the others, but it appears consistently in what parents describe when they look back. The years of early childhood are the years that will be hardest to remember both for parents and, eventually, for the children themselves. Memory in the first years of life is fragile. The brain's hippocampus, the structure responsible for consolidating long-term memories, is still developing through early childhood, which is why most people retain almost nothing from their lives before age 3 or 4. What photographs and videos do is externalize the memory. They create a record that allows the family to return to experiences together, to relive milestones, to see change that happened too gradually, to be noticed in real time, to give the child eventually a visual record of being loved in their earliest years. Research on narrative memory in families also suggests that parents who regularly revisit and discuss family experiences with their children produce children with stronger autobiographical memory, greater self-understanding, and more coherent senses of identity. The photograph is not just documentation. It is a conversation waiting to happen. The regret is simply this: moments that felt ordinary passed without being recorded. And ordinary is exactly what became precious. 5. Making decisions for them instead of with them. One of the most consistent findings in developmental research is that a child's sense of competence, their belief in their own ability to make decisions and navigate the world, develops not from being told they are capable, but from actually being given responsibility appropriate to their age and allowed to exercise it. When parents consistently override their child's expressed preferences, even with the best intentions, even with genuinely better judgment, they are not simply making a decision. They are communicating something about the child's capacity for decision making. Over time, that communication accumulates into a belief the child carries about themselves, that their instincts cannot be trusted, that adults must manage what they are unable to manage alone, that autonomy is something that will be extended eventually but has not been extended yet. Research on psychological autonomy support the parenting practice of acknowledging and scaffolding a child's developing independence shows consistent associations with higher intrinsic motivation, stronger self-regulation, greater academic persistence, and more positive mental health outcomes across childhood and adolescence. Children who were given choices, who had their opinions genuinely considered, who were allowed to make mistakes within safe boundaries, developed a more stable and confident sense of self than children who were managed and directed. The regret is not that they said no. It is that they so rarely said, "What do you think?" 6. Communicating without really connecting. There's a difference between talking to your child and talking with them. Most parents, when they look back, realize they spent far more time doing the former than the latter. Talking to a child is instruction, correction, direction, update, what you need to do, what you should have done, what is happening next, all necessary, none of it connection. Talking with a child is being genuinely curious about their inner world, what they think about something that happened, what they found strange or funny or sad, what they are wondering about. It requires a quality of attention that is different from the attention of supervision. It requires interest, specifically the interest of one person in another person as a full and particular human being. Research on parent-child communication consistently finds that the quality of conversational exchange, not just quantity of time together, is among the most powerful predictors of a child's emotional intelligence. Their willingness to bring problems to the parent, and the strength of the relationship across the transition to adolescence. Children who experienced their parents as genuinely curious about their interior lives maintained closer relationships into adulthood than children who experienced their parents as present but not particularly interested. The regret is not about the time they did not have. It is about the time they had and spent half listening. 7. keeping money a secret. This one surprises people, but it appears with striking regularity in what parents describe when they reflect on what they wish they had done differently. Most parents avoid discussing money with their children out of a desire to protect them from worry, from awareness of limitation, from the complexity of financial reality. And the result is a generation of young adults who arrive at independence having never been taught how money actually works. Research on financial socialization, the process by which children develop attitudes and behaviors toward money, finds that parental modeling and explicit financial education in childhood are among the strongest predictors of financial literacy and responsible money management in adulthood. Children who were given pocket money and taught to manage it, who were included in age appropriate conversations about household budgeting, who were allowed to earn small amounts of money and decide how to use it, developed significantly stronger financial habits than children for whom money was an adult matter that did not concern them. Financial literacy is not a skill that appears naturally with adulthood. It is learned, and the home is its first and most formative classroom. 8. Optimizing for accomplishment instead of happiness. Here is a tension most parents feel, but rarely name directly: the difference between raising a child who achieves and raising a child who flourishes. These overlap, but they are not the same thing. And the research suggests parents more often regret the times they prioritized the first at the expense of the second. A study published in the Journal of Happiness Studies found that positive childhood experiences, specifically the experience of joy, wonder, and playful exploration, are among the strongest predictors of psychological well-being across the lifespan. Children who experienced regular positive emotion during childhood showed greater resilience, stronger social connections, and more stable mental health as adults, independent of academic or professional achievement. Research from the American Psychological Association also found that people with fond memories of happy childhood experiences showed lower levels of depression, fewer chronic health problems, and higher life satisfaction as older adults. The happiness was not incidental. It was the mechanism. The regret is not that they pushed their children toward excellence. It is that the pushing sometimes crowded out the afternoons that produced nothing but delight. And it is the afternoons that the child remembered longest. 9. Not hugging enough. This one is simple, and the research behind it is among the most robust in all of developmental psychology. A 2013 study from UCLA found that unconditional physical affection from a parent produces measurable changes in a child's brain, specifically in the regions associated with emotional regulation and stress response. Children who experienced frequent, warm physical affection from parents showed higher self-esteem, reduced anxiety, improved academic performance, and more stable emotional regulation than those who received less. Research from the Gottman Institute, drawing on decades of studies on affection and child development, found that warmth and physical affection expressed by parents to their children produce consistently positive outcomes across every measure of psychological health: higher self-esteem, fewer behavioral problems, better parent-child communication, greater resilience under stress. The mechanism is biological. Physical affection activates the oxytocin system, reduces cortisol, and builds the neurological infrastructure of emotional security. It is not sentiment, it is physiology. And there is one additional finding that parents who look back almost universally endorse from personal experience. The older a child gets, the less they want to be held. The window closes gradually and without announcement. Hug them now, because now is when they will still let you. Inconsistency between what they said and what they did. Parents who look back often describe a version of the same regret. They held their children to standards they did not hold themselves. They enforced rules selectively. They said one thing consistently and did another thing just as consistently. And they underestimated how precisely their children were watching. Research on parental modeling is unambiguous. Children do not learn values primarily from what they are told. They learn them from what they observe. A parent who preaches patience and practices frustration is teaching frustration. A parent who talks about honesty and models small social deceptions is teaching the legitimacy of small deceptions. The gap between what we say and what we do is not invisible to children. It is, in fact, one of the things they observe most carefully. Consistency matters for another reason as well. Research on child development consistently finds that predictable, Reliable boundaries rules that hold regardless of the parent's mood or the convenience of the moment produce children with stronger self regulation, greater security, and fewer behavioral difficulties than children raised in environments where the rules are negotiable depending on circumstances. Children do not find consistent boundaries restrictive, they find them orienting. The regret is not that they were imperfect, it is that the imperfections taught things they did not mean to teach. 11. Trusting everyone else's opinion over their own. The final regret, and perhaps the most universal, is this: too much time spent trying to parent by someone else's playbook. Every parent is surrounded by advice from their own parents who raised children in a different era with different information, from pediatricians with limited appointment time and broad generalizations, from the internet, which offers certainty in every direction simultaneously, from other parents whose children appear from the outside to be thriving in ways that suggest their parents have something figured out. And in the middle of all that noise, the parent's own instinct, which is specific, which is calibrated to this particular child, which is informed by more hours of close observation than any outside expert possesses, gets progressively quieter. Research on parenting confidence consistently finds that parents who trust their own judgment, who filter external advice through their direct knowledge of their individual child, demonstrate more sensitive and responsive parenting than parents who defer to external authority at the expense of their own observations. The expert knows the research. You know your child. Both are necessary. Neither replaces the other. The regret is not that they sought guidance. It is that they sometimes handed the wheel to people who were not in the car. Looking back at the years of raising a child is a particular kind of experience. It is not only regret, it is also wonder at how fast it went, at how much was right even when it did not feel right, at the extraordinary persistence of love through imperfection and exhaustion and all the ordinary difficulty of a life shared. The research does not describe a perfect parent. It describes a parent who shows up with enough consistency, enough warmth, enough genuine interest in the particular person their child is, that the child comes away with a body of evidence they will carry forward for the rest of their lives. You are in the middle of building that evidence right now. Not with grand gestures, with the ordinary choices of ordinary days. Whether you were present for the conversation that started at 9 p.m., whether the hug happened, whether you asked what they thought and listened to the answer, whether the rules held even when holding them was inconvenient, whether they looked out from the stage and found your face. Those are the things that will matter. They are already mattering. And the good news, the finding that runs quietly beneath every piece of research cited in this video, is that no single day determines the outcome. It is the pattern, the accumulated weight of ordinary moments, and that pattern is being built right now in whatever moment you are in when this video ends. Make it a good one. If something in this video gave you pause, a moment to look at differently, a habit to gently reconsider, share it with a parent who is in the thick of it right now. Leave a comment telling me which of these 11 resonated most with where you are today. And subscribe, because this channel exists to give parents the research and the perspective they need to make the most of the time they have. Until next time, look up from the ordinary, because the ordinary is what your child will remember. And they are already remembering it now.